Hey guys, it's Kevin, my review for Godzilla vs. Kong. So what Godzilla vs. Kong is essentially about is basically we center on a bunch of humans and they are trying to find this place called the Hollow Earth. It is this area that they're not entirely sure if it exists, but they feel the way to get there is through Kong. He is going to lead them to this place. Meanwhile, Godzilla, on the other hand, is wrecking a ton of havoc. He is really not, which is a little strange because, you know, he's supposed to be an ally and protector of Earth and things like that. So another group of humans have to try to figure out what exactly is causing this and maybe find some kind of weapon to subdue him. Eventually, these two characters do come together and we realize that there is an ancient long feud that these two characters would have, and they are prepared to fully settle it once and for all. Godzilla vs. Kong, I was definitely looking forward to this movie. Look, the MonsterVerse overall, I have been pretty up and down with. I enjoy the first Godzilla. I think that it's a really solid film that does a good job of showing the scope of Godzilla and how much of a threat he was and things like that. And I think it does a really good job with that. Kong Skull Island, I just have never been able to get into. I find it very boring and just really uninteresting as a film. I think it has some okay sequences, but overall, it just rings very hollow for me. And then Godzilla King of the Monsters, I'm in a huge minority with. I think that movie is a ton of fun. It finally gave us what we wanted from the human characters. It gave them a bit more depth, but it also got us a little more invested into the Godzilla mythology when it came to, you know, Gojira and Mothra and things like that. I thought that it was basically the kind of blockbuster that we wanted when it came to the MonsterVerse, but clearly a lot of people do not agree with me on that. But the point is, I was very excited for this film. It really seemed like they were just going all out in creating basically all the elements that have worked within the other Godzilla films and really just building upon it here, and that's exactly what they did. Godzilla vs. Kong is everything that you could really want in a Hollywood blockbuster. It's a ton of fun, but it also does a little bit more than I think what you are expecting, and that's something that I definitely really did appreciate. It's a film that has a considerable amount of effort put into it that I think really does make it one of the more impressive blockbusters to come out in quite a bit, but we are just getting into right now. Now, when we talk about the acting in this movie, there isn't a lot to say. You know these actors are really good. They all do a very good job, whether it's Alexander Skarsgård or Rebecca Hall, or Millie Bobby Brown. You know, they're all very talented here. Brian Tyree Henry is a ton of fun here. Julian Dennison, Eiza González, even Demián Bichir. I think everyone gives a really good performance. You can tell they're having a lot of fun. Nobody really felt like they were like phoning it in. It legitimately felt like everyone really wanted to be there, and so that's definitely really great to see. However, in terms of the human characters, I think the big standout in terms of performances has to be of Kaylee Hoottle, who I've never seen before, but I feel like we're definitely going to see her again. She plays this character, Gia. She is a deaf orphan, but she forms this bond with Kong, and it's just a really heartwarming performance to watch. You understand the bond that she has, you understand why it means so much to her, but you also care a lot about her character. There's a lot more emotion put into her than I really was expecting, and I think she overall did a really strong job here, a very strong child performance for sure, that I really hope we do get to see more of in other films, because I really do think she is going to be something special. Overall, just really good performances here, not really a ton to say, but I think everyone did do a pretty good job with this film. Now we gotta get to the directing and the writing, because those are the things that really make this film as good as it is. Let's talk about Adam Wingard. Not the greatest director, really not. He has not had a great track record in terms of directing, but he has directed one film I really love, and that's called The Guest, and I was really holding out hope, and I have to say, I think this is easily the strongest directing we have had in any of the MonsterVerse films. For one thing, Wingard knows exactly what this film is. He knows that it's ridiculous, he knows that it's a lot of fun, and he isn't trying to make it anything more than it is, and I think that's something that a lot of people are going to really appreciate. I know a lot of these MonsterVerse films, they've been very high concept, they have been trying to go for these really deep themes and things like that, and Wingard isn't really interested in that. He just wants to make a fun movie, and he really does succeed in doing so, but he also puts a lot more effort into it than I really did expect. I mean, this film is honestly really well directed. The comedic beats really hit. The film is very funny, and I think he does a really good job with that. But on the other side of things, when it comes to the Godzilla and Kong rivalry, I mean, he absolutely doubles down on just how epic that can really be, and just he really doubles down on just the epic proportions of what that whole conflict could really be, and I think he does such an excellent job with it. Just really great directing from him overall. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but he himself takes it but he himself puts a lot of passion into it. He did not half-ass this film in any way, and I think it's easily the strongest directing we've had in any of these films as a result. I was just very impressed by his directing here, but we got to get into the writing in this film, because look, when you go into Godzilla vs. Kong, you're not expecting an amazingly well-written film that has like Oscar potential or something like that. You just want a really good story, and honestly, this film has a lot better writing than I really did expect it to be. You know, you watch a film like this and you think maybe it's just going to be very throwaway. You think that maybe it's not going to live up to the hype, but there's a lot more put into it, especially when it comes to our two titans. Kong essentially is the main character here. You know, the biggest fear people probably have with this film is the human characters, that they're going to take up the bulk of the movie, and that we're not really going to care that much about them. And while they are there, and I will get into them in a little bit, Kong really is... This film really puts the focus squarely on our two titans, but especially when it comes to Kong, who really is the main character of this movie. You begin the movie with him, and you end the movie with him, and I thought that was a really good choice, because Kong never feels like a prop. He feels like a fully well-developed character. He has a lot more heart to him, especially, than I really was expecting. I already talked about that really great bond between him and the character of Gia. The bond that they form is really strong for sure, and it definitely is some of the best part of the movie. But I also really love the mythology that was put into Kong. You understand why this location means so much to him, but you also understand why he has this rivalry with Godzilla, and you really do root for him as a character, and I think the film did do a really good job with that. But then connecting it with the Godzilla side of things, who really is more of a supporting character, the film also does a really good job with. You understand that Godzilla is definitely going a bit too far. He needs to be put in check, and Kong is the person that really does need to do that. And seeing these two duke it out, obviously you need a reason for them to do that, and the reasoning is very strong. The film does do a good job with, again, getting you to care about both these characters. I already cared about Godzilla, but Kong especially, I was surprised how much I really did feel for him, and not just in the sense where, oh, I love seeing Kong kick ass. I legitimately liked him as a character. I legitimately liked the depth that they were giving him, and I thought they did a really good job with that overall. He has as much depth as the human characters have in the other MonsterVerse films, and I thought they did a really good job with that. But let's talk about the humans in this movie, because that's always going to be a concern for a lot of people is, you know, we have the humans. How do we really use them? Do they take up too much of the movie? And I will say right now, this film easily has the least amount of human interaction than you've seen in any of the films. Now, that's not to say they're not in it, because they definitely are in it a fair amount, but they are really not the main focus here. We have two groups that we do focus on, and what I especially liked about this movie is that I feel like a lot of the monster films have been kind of overstuffed in terms of characters. They've crammed a lot of them in, and they don't know what to do with half of them. This film smartly makes the choice to only focus on the ones that have a specific goal in the movie, or have some sort of specific role that they need to fulfill. Whether it's Alexander Skarsgård and him overcoming this fear that he has because of a personal tragedy that he's gone through, but also be someone that is trying to track down this object. And I think the film does a really good job with delving into that. Or Rebecca Hall, and you understanding that her daughter has formed this close relationship with Kong, and she is kind of feeling very impacted by it. And, you know, you can understand why she is so invested in the mission, and I think they did a good job with that. Or you have the other side of things with Millie Bobby Brown's character from King of the Monsters. I already cared about her, but here there's even more of a purpose. You know that she sees the good in Godzilla. She wants to try to restore him back to his former self, the way that he's supposed to be. Her teaming up with Julian Dennison and Brian Tyree Henry, who is this absolutely insane podcaster. He has these crazy theories, and he's so much fun to watch. Again, the film does a good job with never having too much human interaction. Even the villain in this movie, played by Demián Bichir, I didn't mind. Yes, he's generic. Yes, he definitely feels like the billionaire that is very much he's very self-aggrandizing in that way. He's very manipulative, but he's just such a fun character to watch, and I think the film does a good job with that. It knows that these human characters need to be fun. They can't be boring. They can't be spouting exposition constantly, and even the ones I didn't like, they know exactly when to get rid of them. They know exactly when not to use them, and I was just really pleased by how they ended up doing that, because I feel like it's clear that they listened to some of the criticisms from the other movies, that either they used the human characters too much or there was, too many of them. This film really does it does kind of work as a course correction, and I think they did a really good job with that. So overall, I enjoyed the writing a lot here, a lot more than I really did expect it to. I think the writing is overall very solid. Like I said, the film is also very funny. There's a really great gag, especially with Alexander Skarsgård's character and Gia, and what he ends up doing with her, I just thought was a lot of fun. They did something different with it basically every time, and I was just really loving pretty much everything about the writing here. I think overall this is just a much better screenplay than you really would expect for a film like this. When it comes to the cinematography, though, I mean, this is where the film really delivers. This is what you really came to see, and saying that they delivered is an understatement. It is honestly kind of scary just how good everything looks. The designs on Khan and Godzilla have never looked more real. If these two were to actually fight, this is probably what they would look like, and it never for a second feels artificial. It never for a second is taking you out of the movie because it's so obviously fake. It just feels so real in that way, and the film really does a good job with... And they really did a great job with making this look as real as possible. And when those two fight, oh my god, it is just so amazing to watch. They really go all out in terms of the fighting here. It's not just them kicking and punching. They consistently find things for them to do, and I was just so blown away by the cinematography, especially the final fight of this film, which really, I mean, the entire third act of the movie really is just them fighting, and they do a really good job with it. They really keep you invested in what they're doing, more so than I was really expecting, and I loved basically every minute of it. I loved what they end up doing in terms of the fight sequences here, but also just the look and the feel of everything. When it comes to Skull Island, for example, I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful. The film is very colorful. There's a lot of very specific color palettes here. There's even some things they do with the camera in terms of the fighting that I thought was really cool, and it kept you very invested into what was going on, and the film just really does deliver, and especially from an audience perspective, I mean, getting to see this with such a large crowd was an absolute delight, because they were just loving every single thing that was going on in this movie. It very much reminded me of my King of the Monsters experience, where this is with real fans. The film knows it's for the fans, and it treats itself like it's for the fans, but it also gives you more than you really are expecting, and those are the kind of blockbusters that I really do admire, is the ones that even if they know this is really silly, it really does commit to it, and in terms of cinematography, it really does deliver. The CGI is truly astounding here, and I have no idea... And I'm on it, I have no idea how it looks as real as it does. Just so blown away by what they did in terms of cinematography. The score as well in this film, I liked quite a bit. I think Tom Holkenborg once again gave such a good score here. It's very intense, but there also is something just really triumphant about it that really puts you in the moment, and I think he did a really great job with the score here. and the editing, this is the shortest film within the MonsterVerse so far, and it absolutely is the right length. At no point did I feel this film was dragging. At no point did I feel like we weren't getting enough of everything. It really felt like they gave us just enough of what we need to see. They gave us just enough of the fights between Khan and Godzilla. They gave us just enough of the human interactions. You know, they gave us just enough of the Millie Bobby Brown storyline, and they gave us just enough of the Alexander Skarsgård and Rebecca Hall storyline. Just overall, very, very impressed by the pacing here. I think the film is very well paced in that way, and I really don't have too many complaints on that side of things at all. In terms of issues with this movie, I mean, there really aren't too many things to complain about. I will say, as much as I did enjoy the villain in this movie, it is a little hokey. I think they could have maybe delved into it a bit more. I think that this was the one part of the film that they maybe could have built upon just a little bit, and it would have made it that much better, because it does feel like by the end of the movie that though this villain is good, he really is just here to set up a certain thing that happens in the movie, which I know this film's been out for a while, but just in case people haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil what ends up happening, but it did kind of feel like he's really just a vessel for this specific plot element, and there's really not much else to him besides that. And then my really only other flaw with the movie is Kyle Chandler's character. He is in the film, and he's given absolutely nothing to do. And look, I'm not saying they need to give him this, like, amazing storyline, but considering where his character left off on King of the Monsters, I expected for him to be a lot more involved in this movie, and he's really not. He pops up, like, in 3 or 4 scenes throughout this entire movie, but other than that, he's completely wasted as a character. Millie Bobby Brown really is the one we're focusing on here, and I liked her character in King of the Monsters, and I like her even more here, but I felt like there was still stuff you could have done with his character, and for some reason they just simply didn't, and I didn't really understand why that was the case, why they gave him so little to work with. I heard that they were supposed to have, I believe, Jessica Henwick and the woman from King of the Monsters show up, and I think if they would have shown up, it would have been a lot more satisfying than what we ultimately did get. It's really just the one thing that I think they could have done a little bit more with in this film, and I don't really understand why he needed to be here if you weren't really going to give him anything to do, because they really don't do all that much with him here. And I will admit, there is a lot of exposition in this film. There are definitely points where the characters are saying things, and it's like, we don't really need you to say this, but there's not nearly as much of it as there has been in previous films. The film definitely does a lot more showing than telling, and that's something I definitely did appreciate. There's especially one moment with Khan, and I was just like, yes! And it's not one of the fight scenes, it's just something we get to see, and it was just so badass what they decided to do with his character, and I really loved what they did there. It was such a good moment for him, and it really did feel earned in that way. That's the other thing. The moments in this movie, you know, when we eventually get to the fight scenes with Godzilla and Khan, it feels earned. When we eventually get to the point where there's a bigger threat out there, it feels earned, and I think that's something that this film really did deliver on overall. Overall, Godzilla vs. Kong absolutely delivers. It is a very fun time. It's very electrifying in terms of its fight scenes, which are just absolutely top tier. It's a film that knows exactly what it is, and it really isn't trying to be anything different. It does scale back on the human characters a bit and focuses a lot more on the actual conflict. Khan, for the first time, really does feel like the main character here, as he really should. The locations look great. The fight scenes, like I said, absolutely deliver. And just overall, this is everything that you could really want in a blockbuster, and I hope is not the end of this MonsterVerse. I think there's still a lot more that they can do here. I think there is definitely more that they can build upon, but if this is the last entry we get from the MonsterVerse, it's a hell of a way to go out, because you can tell they really have improved upon every single film. They've been listening to criticisms, but they also have been trying to do something different, and with this film, I think they did something that I think is legitimately going to please everyone, and I really loved the way this film really did turn out. This is easily one of the most fun times I have had with any film in a while, and I am going to give Godzilla vs. Kong overall a B+. But over, guys, in my review of Godzilla vs. Kong, let me know if you guys saw this, Morale, left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.